Okay, so we've now heard a few examples of use cases and how to manage SONiC. I will now roll a little bit back and start at the beginning. How do you start using SONiC? It's one of our concerns of our customers or potential customers who say they are familiar with the Cisco networks, and some of them are a little bit afraid of this new open networking stuff. Do I have to learn the whole networking stuff from scratch again, or how do I do it? How do I get started with all this? So I hope I can get a little high level view of how you can start with that, and how quickly you can keep up to speed with your existing network, and developing your future network based on SONiC and open networking in general. So the first thing I want to cover is not directly related to SONiC, but it's about ONIE. This is the basis for every open networking switch. I will quickly explain what it is and how to use it to install an open networking operating system. I will then specifically speak about the options that you can use to install SONiC. Can also be used to upgrade it later. And the first steps in SONiC. Usually, as a network engineer, you will expect a CLI that you can use to configure the switch, to monitor the switch. I will show you the ways that you can use them. And then maybe taking a little step towards automation for a larger network, I will introduce the features that you can use in zero-touch provisioning in SONiC. And later on, the management framework that is implemented in SONiC that will allow you the configuration management of the switch via various ways, either manual or automated. And I will give just a brief overview of the options that we have here. The first thing, or first question that we also have to explain to the customers usually is, what is this ONIE? This basically on every open networking switch that you buy, it's the open network install environment. Some people like to call it a bootloader. It's not exactly that. It's actually a small busybox environment that boots up with the help of grub usually. And its only purpose is to help you install a real open networking operating system. So it also can help you later on with a deinstallation if you didn't like it or want to install a different version. Then you can deinstall the OS again. So it remains there even if you install an operating system. You can, if you have console access to your switch, you can reboot your switch into ONIE using the same grub menu or modified grub menu. And then you can do the operating system maintenance on the switch. And maybe other things can do certain, for example, you can use it also for password recovery and stuff like that. So everything that's outside of the actual operating system can be done in ONIE. ONIE provides several methods to install an operating system. There are manual methods if you have just a small number of switches or want to try out certain things. And there are also automated methods that you can use for a large-scale deployment. The manual methods are just simple commands. Usually you can install an operating system with a single command. This is called ONIE-NOS install. And everything else will then go automatic. Eventually, your switch will have the operating system installed, and then it will reboot automatically into that new operating system. This command takes as an argument a URL to your installer file. This can be a HTTP resource, FTP supported TFTP, or it can also point to a local file. If you have uploaded it to the switch previously, or also it's on a mounted USB stick, can also be an option. This installer file you will receive from the provider of the operating system. So in the SONiC case, we can provide it to you. There might also be other options if you want to try another open networking operating system. And you can start your installation manually, but the actual installation will also be automatic. There are also automated ways to install the operating system that will be used for large-scale deployment. There's a ONIE discovery that is started automatically if you boot up the switch. It will look for a host called ONIE server. If it will find one, then it will try several options to download some default named images. Or the more flexible way, and I think most people would use that one, is using a DHCP information from your DHCP server. There's a default URL option that you can configure on the DHCP server, and if that is provided to the ONIE switch, then it will use that default URL and retrieve the image file from that URL and start installation from there. Specifically for the case of SONiC, there's also an ONIE installer file for SONiC. We can install it with any of the methods that I've just mentioned. The switch will automatically reboot into SONiC at the end of the installation. You will have the default login that is mentioned here with this little bit strange password. Some distributions of SONiC expire this, so you would have to reset it right away after or when you first log in. And what it also does, it will automatically start the zero-touch provisioning process. And this will remain active until you either disable it or until it has finished successfully. Before talking about the zero-touch provisioning, let me mention the CLIs, because that's probably also one of the first things that you want to see from, or will see from the switch that you will find in SONiC. The standard one is called CLIC, based on the Python CLIC library. It's actually just two commands, config and show, with a lot of parameters, and there you can basically configure most things, or actually anything except routing. For routing, we have to refrain to the VTYSH that you may know from free-range routing project. That's exactly that. This is a little bit unfortunate because you will have, or will end up with two configuration files. One contains interface configuration, VLAN configuration, etc. And the other one will contain the FR routing configuration. This is a little tedious to maintain, and therefore the recommendation will be to use this CLIs CLI. This is integrating all of these tasks, so it will include both the interface, VLAN, VXLAN, and the routing configuration. It's not present in every distribution of SONiC, especially the upstream SONiC does not have implemented it completely, so you cannot really use it there. There are the commercial distributions of SONiC, for example, Broadcom, that have it implemented. This is really complete. You have only a single configuration file in the end. All the configuration routing interface is mapped into one configuration file. And what half of you might like, the other half maybe not, it is will look familiar to this half. It is very similar to a Cisco CLI. And from that point in time, you can rather easily configure the switch. And at least most of the things, maybe it's not 100% compatible, but it will at least give you a familiar look and feel if you're from the Cisco world. So now about the zero-touch provisioning, I've mentioned it before. So this process will automatically start if the switch is freshly installed, which means it doesn't have a stored configuration, which also means if you erase your configuration and reboot it, it will also restart as ZTP. If you don't want to do it, you can disable it by configuration command, and then it will stop. Otherwise, it will look for boot file URL information from the DHCP server. And this URL can point to a file that will contain the detailed information for the zero-touch provisioning. This file will describe what the switch shall do. There are several options here. It can either you can tell it to update its own software image. For example, since the switch has been sitting in the storage, a new release might have come up, so you might direct it to install a new image. It can pull a configuration, which can be a partial configuration, so just some base parameters, or it can also be a complete configuration if you can manage that. It can pull arbitrary files like SSH keys, which would be very popular if you plan to manage your switch with Ansible later on. And it can also pull some script that it should execute. For example, what we like to do in our labs, I mentioned these expiring passwords. What we do with our lab switches, when we try them and install them freshly, we just unexpire the password, so we can use the same default password for all the switches, which is very convenient for us. And there are several more options. You can direct it to ping a certain host to verify that the connectivity is okay, or you can apply some SNMP configuration if you still want to use that. So that's very flexible and can do a lot of things with zero-touch provisioning. So all of this will then be executed. Eventually, it should succeed, and then the ZTP process will finish. This, meanwhile, implemented in most distributions of SONiC. The upstream version, I think there are several. I'm actually not checking the latest upstream versions. I'm not sure how much is complete there yet, but when I checked it last time, it wasn't implemented at all, so it was still starting. I'm not sure what the latest status is here. So when we have provisioned the switch, maybe with the help of ZTP, we will have to manage it from day two on. So we have the manual options here with the click and VTYSH CLIs or the CLIs. We have the DevOps related methods that are supported. Ansible and Chef support is there. You could implement certain, maybe also support for other options here. And we have some programmatic interfaces like REST or GNMI that you can use, depending on what your automation framework suggests. How does this all work together? We have the SONiC management framework that is at the heart of SONiC. This is an API that is local to the switch. And we have all these various methods to access the switch via CLI, Ansible, Chef, RESTconf, or GNMI. And they all access the same API of the SONiC management framework. So this means to you, no matter which method you use, if you use the same access methods or the same APIs, you will always achieve the same results. And you will not experience any surprises if you switch, for example, from RESTconf to GNMI. You'll always see the same results if you configure the same things. Yeah, that was this short overview of the first steps in SONiC.